Bushwhacks were some of the worst days I've ever had in the mountains, or life, really.
Whereas Panther Mountain is totally opposite. It's a mountain on top of a crater.
I think the weather challenges on this incident were particularly difficult.
It was really the development of New York State. Catskills were responsible.
Now you're listening to Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast.
Wow, it's been a while, Tad. I almost didn't recognize you.
Yeah, well, I'm aging fast.
Yeah, I mean, with your daughter taking out west, I would think that she pushed you to the limits.
We surely did a lot more than what was advertised. So.
Good. We have a special episode for you to do that. So,
all right, special episode with me makes me feel like I'm special.
Yeah. So, welcome to episode 174 to Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast. Tonight, Tom Gravel joins us from Open Space Institute to talk about their new purchase of the Blue Hill property, 3,100 acres in the southwestern part of the Catskills, soon to be open in a little bit. And he's going to clue us into, or clue our listeners into, a very unique area of the Catskills, which presumably the DEC will be opening up to public access in the next few years. Yes. A few years or I thought it was a few weeks.
Well, they're conveying it to the DEC soon, within the next few weeks, maybe. But then I'm assuming that the DEC is going to want to have a unit management plan that takes some time to prepare. There's, going to be all that red tape and logistics, but it's one monumental step closer to being available to Stosh and Tad to go and hike legally on it.
Yes, that'll be awesome. So Tom joins us tonight. We'll talk with him later. So it's good to be back. We've had a little absent. Taz was out west having fun with his daughter, Sophie. I was down in the southern part of the United States at Hilton Head Island in South Carolina, enjoying the beaches. So Tad was enjoying the sand out west. I was enjoying the sand out east. So,
well, there's a lot of rock out there too.
Rock and sand, yeah. I mean, Death Valley is pretty crazy, man. That's a hell of a time.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly exceeded my expectations, and I'll say that I haven't had a stereotypical East Coast view of what Death Valley was about, and you and I refer to it as Death Valley. It's actually Death Valley National Park, which consists of several valleys and multiple mountain ranges. So it's not just Death Valley proper. We went all over the place, and stay tuned. Future episodes, Stosh will interrogate me, and I might even disclose how we were buzzed by a Navy fighter jet.
Oh, nice. Jealous.
Yeah.
Did you get a video of it or no?
That one we didn't. I've been trying to search for the two that were a little bit off in the distance, frolicking. I think they call it dogfighting. That I happened to take, but the one that did the barrel roll right over our heads. No, neither of us had our phones with us. Yeah, but it was exceedingly cool.
Did you recognize the plane? Were they F-35s? Were they the new planes?
It had the V tail wing.
That was the F-35.
Yeah.
Nice. Those things can haul ass. They
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, you saw him, and a couple seconds later you heard him. I mean, before he came around the corner, you knew somebody was nearby, and then you saw the plane, and he was literally like overhead, and then the sound, hit us. That was very crazy. So,
when we were in Hilton Head, I heard something, and I'm just like, that doesn't sound like a regular Airbus, one of the big planes. I'm like, this is different. And I look up and I see one of the F-35s just up like 30,000 feet, just flying. And it's just like, I'm like, did you hear that? And Jessica's like, is that like a plane? I'm like, oh yeah, that's a fighter jet. And she's like, it sounds like three of them. I'm like, yeah.
This guy was, going to say within 200 feet of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. I swear that they knew we were there. They must have some heat sensing something and sensed that there was a vehicle in the canyon, because we had just parked the Jeep, probably a little hot from climbing up to the top of the canyon area that we were going through and sitting there eating our lunch. And it's not that you just hear them. I mean, these things, when they're even far away, I mean, you feel it. They're so powerful, and then when you this was just a single guy, but the couple days before, we were in an area where a bunch of them were out, and you just feel it, you feel the thunder, as they would say. Yeah. So
can't wait to hear about it, dude. I can't wait to. That's so cool. So remember, June 14th, we have a live episode in the Mountaintop Historical Society.
Excellent. What time is it going to be? Yeah, I kind of remember that. I haven't forgotten all things inside the line. So June 14th, the Hysterical Society. What time is it going to be?
2 p.m.
2 p.m. Oh, okay. It's before my nap time. That's good.
I know, right? And it's once again, you got to register, I guess. I don't really know if they really listen to this, but I think there's going to be at least 4,000 to 5,000 people there.
Yeah.
So
we're going to have T-shirts, souvenirs, food trucks will be there, a few opening acts. It's going to be a big thing. But Stosh and I take the stage at 2 p.m. Stosh will have his Sharpie. He'll be doing autographs, and I'll be doing oil changes out in the parking lot.
I heard Post Malone might be there too as well. So he's going to be doing he's the opening act, and then afterwards, I heard maybe it might be like a cross between Limp Bizkit and Guns N' Roses, but I told Guns N' Roses to stay home.
Oh, you're pulling my leg. I don't believe this.
He does live like 20 minutes away from me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he lives 30 minutes, Walton.
Well, I knew you lived in a poshy neighborhood, but I didn't realize it was that poshy.
But yes, June 14th, once again, be there, have fun, stop on by. If you can't register, you register at the Mountaintop Historical Society email, check on their website, or send me a message and I could register with the person who's running the show there. So going to be a good time. We're going to be talking about, of course, the train stations and stuff like that. Tad and I are probably going to be pounding like 5 or 6 back before the show and 5 or 6 during the show when we have rides.
Because I want to drive down 23 with like a BAC of 3.5 or 0.35.
Well, if you get some of those Hudson Norths, they have a good amount of them.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a flyover. That'll be quite the thing.
And so also, apparently, we were mentioned in the New York Times.
In the what?
Somebody said New York Times, and I only know the Times Union. So I was like, the hell is the New York Times? And then they send me the article. I was like, oh, wow. I mean, it was, they tagged us and they mentioned us about the Leo DeFleur. We talked to the Rangers about that. And we were mentioned. So cool. Kudos to us on reaching out. Hopefully this will get us that 2 million person that we've hit, I guess. Yeah,
I guess there was a spike in downloads after that. I want to know, how is it that the New York Times knew that was talked about in the interview?
They had to listen to the whole thing because that was like 3/4 of the way through, right?
Yeah, I think they've been stalking us. I think that's where they've been getting some of their outdoor news stories, is by listening to the podcast.
Cool. I'll allow it. So thank you to who's ever reach out to us if you wrote that article and then you tagged us, because that's actually pretty cool. And we'd just like to thank you for actually tagging us and not just saying Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast. You actually tagged the episode. So kudos to them for doing what's right, especially in these day and ages. So also doing what's right. I guess these hikers up in the Adirondacks did what's right, but in the wrong way. So apparently two people that were tripping on mushrooms in the Adirondacks called for a rescue and reported that the third hiker was dead, gone out of there, even though the third hiker wasn't dead. They were tripping on mushrooms and they thought he was dead. Cascade Mountain in the Adirondacks. Yeah, so 3 people went up to hike Cascades Mountain in the Adirondacks, got some mushrooms when they summited. On the way back down, one person of the party left. The two others didn't know the person left, and then they reported that he fell off a cliff and died. So
it sounds like we need to get them on the show. I'd like to hear more about this.
Would you like them when they're high or not high?
I'll take them either way.
Okay. So yeah, I'd like to hear their story when they're not high, and then have them like tell the story when they're high, because it'll be like one time, like I said, it's Guns N' Roses. The next time it's Pink Floyd.
Yeah. So instead of post-hike brews and bites, it'll be post-hike shrooms and brews.
Shrooms and mistakes. So that was a little different. I heard about that, and a lot of people were posting about that, sending me messages about it, and I was just like, you can't at least the Rangers are getting all sorts of aspects of rescues and not just injured people all the time. That they get stuff with this and they can deal with this, and they have the experience. So just imagine hearing that one person's from our party is dead, and then they find out that he's not dead, and they got to find him, and he was eventually found. So
yeah, well, I guess the person who was suspected to be deceased called in after the two guys that were tripping called in. We don't know if the third person was tripping, but eventually everybody calls in, because who knows what's going on. I mean, if they're really high on psychedelics, they might have just been freaking out because of the bugs, flying on them and stuff. That'd be enough to trigger somebody who's doing shrooms. But
yeah, right.
It sounds like an interesting story, and we want to talk to them.
So, yeah, if you know this person, have them get a hold of us, because that would be pretty
questions.
We will have a lot of questions, actually. So that also, Tad, you added this. I remember that does sound familiar. You want to go over that one?
Yeah, in August 2023 on Mount Tremper, we had the 36-year-old from Connecticut who claimed he got into an altercation with his hiking companion and believed he was being hunted like a predator. The DEC Rangers responded and found the folks at a little bit before 6 o'clock in the morning, asleep off the trail. They found the companion. One was from Beacon, the other was from Connecticut. They interviewed the two, and they found out that there was a indication of significant drug and alcohol use. So, I guess the moral of the story is the 10th essential is, or the 11th essential is not drugs and alcohol. So
yeah.
Only in moderation, and in general, it's better just to leave that stuff at home.
But did they summit though?
Yeah,
they got to do the fire tower challenge.
Yeah, I think mentally they summited.
I wonder if they were doing a different type of challenge. Yeah. So,
well, they said the one guy was in the lean-to, and isn't the lean-to on Tremper at the summit?
There's one at the summit, and there's one below the summit, like at that little big sharp turn.
Yeah, but sounds like we need to get these guys and the Adirondack boys on the show, kind of like a party. We'll just have a big party with them
at Schneider's.
Yeah, we could do that at Schneider's.
Oh my God, this is not good. This is not good. Oh wow, unbelievable! So crazy times. And there was also some other thing. Wasn't there a guy was it in the Catskill? No, this might have been the White Mountains that was naked, and he was running up to people and yelling at people.
I didn't do that in the White Mountains. That's when I was up in the Adirondacks.
That's when you were out west. You did that out west.
No, but there was in the news today was that stewardess who was found naked dancing in the bathroom of an airliner. You didn't see that?
No.
Yeah, didn't hit your news feed. I wonder why it hit mine.
No, I got another one though. Actually, that's
all right.
So recent. What's it called? DEC Ranger reports. So we had an incident over on the Blackhead Range, where I was today. Let me pull it up. So on May 27th, 10:30 p.m., Forest Rangers Comerford, Fox, and Peterson responded to an overdue hiker last seen near the Blackhead Mountain Summit at 1:30 p.m. So that's 9 hours later. They decided to 9 hours. No, wait. Yeah, 9 hours later, they decided to call it in. Rangers searched with the Windham Police and Greene County Sheriff deputies at 6:30 a.m. the next morning. Rangers located the 24-year-old from Brooklyn walking down a drainage area 7 miles from his last known point. Rangers assessed the hiker for any medical concerns and provided a courtesy ride to his vehicle at the Big Hollow. So my big question, as your last known point was the summit, and then you're 7 miles down into a drainage area. The only place I can say that guy went was east and went down that brook that was washed out, the Arizona slide area. Because that's like if he goes down the Batavia Kill side, 7 miles would lead him back to Big Hollow on the Batavia Kill.
Yeah.
The other way would lead him to Colgate Lake. So that's my only theory, is that he left and went east down that big slide. I forgot what brook that's called.
Oh.
And that's a long ways to get to a road. So he just descended. He was gone.
Yeah. So why was he over that direction?
Yeah.
Wasn't there a plane wreck over there?
Towards the Arizona side, there is.
Yeah.
But that's like way down. I don't think that's near the drainage area.
Well, maybe he had bad coordinates.
Did you get any inside information or something like that?
No, I didn't. But I mean, look, the guy obviously, was acting on bad information or bad instinct. And I mean, it's, I think, fairly well known that there's some plane wrecks up there, and he might have been out searching for them.
That Arizona plane wreck is way off of where Blackhead is. There's a glider crash that's over on Acra Point, but the place that I see him going down is, I'm trying to look at Trout Brook. There was once a slide that happened there a while back, and that leads you back down to almost towards like it's over on the other side of the Black Bear Lodge area. So, and that's a very, very long drainage. So that's the only way I could think, because 7 miles from that point down of drainage, you'd be at Colgate Lake, you'd be at Batavia Kill, you'd be at Big Hollow, and then the other spots are all like you'd be fine. But it's definitely crazy incident,
Yeah, well, what we both know from that is this fellow obviously doesn't listen to the show, because he or she would know better.
Yes. So also, the 3500 Club Trailhead Steward Program has begun. Sign up online at catskill3500club.org. You can find a link there to sign up for the Steward Program. Tad and I probably be doing it once this year. We got to find out when. But pretty cool stuff. They're helping out people. They're already getting a lot of people in there. So good job to them. Thank you, 3500 Club, for doing this once again.
Let me know when we're going to do it. I look forward to it.
Yeah. Last time I tried to do a live show, but it was really weird. It's very awkward. So, and Danny was there, Danny. So Danny showed up out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
It was really weird. So, all right. So the DEC seeks public comment on eligibility guidelines for restoring and expanding forest. So the DEC sent out an email to all the people who subscribe to the DEC and are looking to help support New York's 25 million trees initiative. They are saying that they have a comment draft eligibility guidelines to use Clean Water, Clean Air, and Job Acts, and they wish to have feedback to modify the forthcoming funding opportunities to support reforestation and afforestation projects throughout direct practices and grants programs. Now, Acting Commissioner Lefton, I forgot what her first name is, but she's been all over the place. So she's been these projects protect and improve air and water quality, capture, treat stormwater, help mitigate extreme heat and balance and stuff. And we are looking for the New York State opinion on what it brings to us. Multiple categories within the Transformative Bond Act are available to support forestry and its benefits to open air and clean water. The fall guidelines can be viewed at the Environmental News Bulletin, and you can send a message by them to, I'll have the email in there, dflgrants@dec.newyork.gov. And I just want to backtrack also, the 25 million trees of the initiative It looks like Governor Kathy Hochul 25 wants to plant 25 million trees by 2033 in the new 2024 state address. A total of $32 million in bond act is helping modernize the state tree nursery. So, yeah, they would like to see public comments for what it like you would think about this stuff like that. Pretty cool, but it's just like you wonder, how is this going to be done? Where are they going to start planting trees? Is this going to be like the stuff of like where all these old pastures and stuff that hasn't been used for a while, are they going to like purchase that and plant trees and stuff? So I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, they've I don't know if they have to purchase the old pastures to plant trees in them, but certainly the state has from time to time had these reforestation campaigns. You can see it at various spots in the Catskills where, there's huge areas where they've almost like corn rows of planted trees have been put in. So I'm sure they're better at doing it now and making it look more natural and blending it into the surroundings. But, I guess my concern, or one of the issues that they probably are addressing, is how that changes the existing habitat for the animals that are calling that open field a home. Does planting trees and the changing of the ground cover in that field over time something that's going to, put mice out of that area? Does it make it harder then for hawks to hunt in those fields because they're no longer fields and they have trees? I don't know. It sounds more complicated than just planting trees.
You're correct. And, we see this over on Wyndham High Peak has some of those areas where there's plantations. We see this over towards the northern part of the Catskills up in Greene County. They have a lot. Mount Pisgah, South Mountain. My God, is it Richardson?
Yeah, and Huntersfield,
stuff like that. But you wonder though, are they there? Are they going to build these? And then, eventually they will clear cut them when the trees start getting crappy. I don't think
they're going to clear. They're just going to let it be a natural process in all likelihood. That the decay on the forest floor is good because it just adds nutrients. And what are fallen trees great for? I'm going to tie this in. What are fallen trees absolutely the best thing for?
Bushwhacking.
No, growing mushrooms.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was like, bushwhacking, blow down, yay.
Growing your psychedelic mushrooms. Kathy wants you to come to New York to harvest some psychedelics and get rescued.
Jesus. So good. All right. So, so I will have the link. I will actually write that down because I will forget that. But, cool. Yeah, whatever you can do. So, I think this is the last set. Or no, wait, you got some news after that. I have a little update on. We talked about the Black Mountain Lodge. I think it's the Black Bear Mountain Lodge or the Blackhead Mountain Lodge over on the eastern side of the Blackhead Mountain Range. That used to be a kind of like a little lodge, and it had a nice golf course over there. Golf course was apparently up for sale. It got bought, and these people wanted to develop it. They went before the town. And the town has said that it's determined that the Blackhead Mountain Lodge will not have a significant adverse environmental impact, and its action has been approved so far. It involves a proposal by the applicant for redevelopment of the existing Blackhead Mountain Lodge, and it proposes for expand tourist resort spa hotel. So located at 5464 and 74 Crow's Nest Road and 153 Bald Hill and Round Top, Cairo. So that's pretty crazy. I remember reading off the development, the unit management plan. It wasn't the unit management plan. It's what they planned. And it was pretty significant. They wanted to take out that golf course and actually develop a lot of resorts and stuff like that. So...
yeah. So as I comment later in tonight's show about the Lost Lake development, which is something that a town approved, is a second home seasonal community that went defunct before it got built, and then a developer bought it and started to build year-round homes. This project has its pros and cons, but just to indicate to you how result-orientated a environmental assessment review can be, understand that they're building a parking lot for 280 cars. There's probably no parking lot like that in the entire town, right? There's no resort like this in the entire town. And part of the community or part of the environmental assessment is whether or not the project, if approved and built, will have a significant impact or change on the community character. Well, isn't building a project like this in a sleepy community like this community, isn't that going to change the community character? But apparently, the people that voted for this are in favor of that type of change because they want to bring the jobs and the revenue associated with this project. But it is a change in the community character. So often, these environmental assessments are more, backward reasoning where they want to approve the project and then they just fill in the blanks to get themselves there. That's what I think happened here. I'm not saying it did happen, but if the New York Times wants to quote me on that, so long as they tag me, I'm okay with it.
Nice. So do you think this is like they're moving forward with this, or is it just staying on a straight line, continue not going uphill really?
Getting a secret neg deck is a significant step in the environmental approval process. You'll see some projects spend 3, 4, 5, maybe even more than 5 years going through the environmental review process, trying to get a neg deck. And a lot of things can happen during that period of time, including, the cost of getting, these development approvals, the cost of, any interest or option money they're spending to maintain their contract rights in the land, all sorts of things like that. And then like with this Lost Lake project in Forestburg, what happened is they got fully approved, but then the 2008 housing crisis or financial crisis came along and that submarined interest in the project. And it's sat dormant for like 15 years. So a lot of things can happen while this project is trying to make some forward traction. And the town's problem is that while they presumably are giving this approvals under the auspices that it's kind of a resort community and nobody's going to be living there and going to their local schools, what happens is we see in the Lost Lake development that instead of it being the second home community that the developer told the town it was going to be, it's now proposed or being developed as a year-round community that will have school children and a lot more intense demands on local services like fire protection, the roads, plowing, water, sewer. And I know that there was a couple local organizations that were very concerned because with all of that wastewater flowing into the local streams, that would, for the Lost Lake project, elevate the water temperature, which then impairs the natural habitat for trout fish.
Mm-hmm. We talked about that, yeah.
Yeah. So all this stuff is connected.
Yeah.
It's better just to leave everything undeveloped, except for hiking. It's probably the safest bet. Plant a few trees, and here and there, let Stosh take his shears up there and create some summit views.
Yeah, no, I can't do that. Illegal. So I just wanted to go with this that I found out about what they wanted to approve was 87 new cabins, a 91,000 square foot lodge with a restaurant and spa, 287 cars, a wastewater treatment plant, tennis courts, and perhaps most controversy, a helipad for those people coming to Wyndham. So, yeah. So 102 acres. They approved it. Like you said, we actually chat about this tonight with Blue Hill. This was once a development that they had, and that was supposedly going to be becoming an area of a resort 1 or 2 times, and it didn't happen. So they're going in the right direction so far, but there's a lot of stuff that could stop them. Who knows what could, like you said, a 2008 housing crash, Who knows? Like, this is what we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. That's what I've been doing.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Maybe I'll get the person from that owns that area and see what they have to say about it.
Yeah. We'll just get sued for slander, one or the other.
I got a great lawyer, just to let you know. I got a fantastic lawyer, so they can't touch us.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah. Our lawyers again are, do we hike more and how?
Yeah, right. Let me go on a hike for this one. Like, okay, I'm cranking this open. I'm sorry. I have to. I finished my other one.
I heard nothing. That was an air crack.
It was. It's
no sound.
It's getting warm.
You lost your touch.
Yeah, I know.
You'll have to drink it fast and have another.
Oh, okay. That's a challenge. Oh, so you you threw this on there. So this is this is pretty cool.
Okay. So the USA Today, the newspaper, had its Reader's Choice Awards, and of the top 10 hiking trails in the United States. And so this caught my eye because I'm trying to scroll, but it's not working for me. The number 2 trail out of the top 10 is the Traps hiking trail at the Mohonk Preserve. Presumably they're referring to the Undercliff Overcliff trail out of the Traps area. So that's literally in my backyard. It is a very popular hike. It's also a popular area for climbers. It's kind of got a world-renowned reputation as a climbing venue. But number 3 is right here in the Hudson Valley, and having come from a trip out west where everywhere you look, you just see wide open space and beauty. I thought notable that number 2 on the list was the Traps Trail. Then I read the list a little closer. I see that number 3 is the Gorge Trail in Watkins Glen, boasting 19 waterfalls and 2.2 miles. It has stone arch bridges, etc. But then the article goes on to say that it's kind of not in use right now because it's under reconstruction. I thought that was interesting, but it still made number 3 on the list. And then you have to, so when you're looking at the list, you have to look and see what made number 1, and that's the Devil's Kettle Trail in Minnesota. Did you ever hear of it, Stosh? Devil's Kettle Trail.
I haven't heard of it, but I'm looking it up.
Yeah. So apparently any trail that uses the word devil gets top recognition, like the Devil's Path. Here, the Devil's Kettle Trail.
I mean, it looks like, I mean, these are all, the Watkins Glen Trail, of course, is a waterfall trail. The Devil's Kettle looks like it's the same exact thing, almost.
Yeah. Apparently the intrigue with it is there's one waterfall along the way that splits into 2 separate falls on the plunge down.
Mm-hmm.
So I say whoopee. I'm going with the Traps in my backyard.
Nice. And I really love the Watkins Glen Trail, the Gorge Trail. That's a fantastic spot.
I haven't been over there in 30 years.
Hey, gotta go back, man. It's a tourist trap, but you gotta go back. It's nice. I think it looks like the list is composed of mostly 3 to 4 mile hikes. So it's
yeah. I
mean, I understand, but there's,
I think they're highly accessible and they have a high wow factor for the level of input that you have to put into it. I know that hiking all the trails for the most part and the gunks are, some of them are so easy you can bring a baby stroller with you.
Yeah.
Right. But that's great because then, somebody who, whether they have accessibility issues or other needs and things to deal with, they can still get out and hike some really beautiful terrain without, having to deal with unsteady footing, being in sketchy areas. I mean, all the trails in the Mohonk and Minnewaska area are well drained. I mean, they're all improved. And I think, as we'll hear later on tonight, OSI has a lot to do with that. They pump some money into maintaining those trails over there, which is good.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And that's why we get them on the show. Anybody that's willing to put some time and effort back into our trails here in New York State and anywhere, it's just a phenomenal time. It's just a phenomenal way to do it because, I wouldn't say we're running short, but it's tough to maintain all these trails that we're developing and stuff like that. And, some of these places need new bridges, or some of these places need bridges going over the Neversink. We got a lot of work to do.
You mentioned that. Now I should have asked Tom, what the fuck, man? Why aren't we building a bridge over the Neversink? Okay. That's why I'm not giving to OSI, frankly. But it's good that the state and others are on top of all this trail maintenance, because you never know when another situation like 2020 and the pandemic is around the corner, and you'll get that peak in outdoor activity. So it's nice to have the trails, prepared and sustainable.
Yeah.
It's all about giving to your, local community and your outdoor organizations, et cetera. And I guess that's a segue to our next segment.
I mean, yes. So before I thank the supporters and the sponsors and stuff, I want to go out and thank everybody who has contributed, number one, to the Catskills, to New York State, to their local trails and stuff like that. But once again, thank you to the monthly sponsors, the monthly supporters, and the hard ciders donors of the show. This previous week, we donated $1,000 back into the Catskills. So your love of the podcast has contributed back into the Catskills. $250 went to the Catskill Center. $250 went to the Friends of the Feathered and Furry, and $500 to the Forest Ranger Association. So we want to thank everybody so much once again for supporting the show, donating the show. We really appreciate it. And your money goes right back into the Catskills, not just for the podcast. So it could have been done without you. And thank you once again, Tad, for joining me up. You helped out a lot within the past 60 episodes. So helping me out with knowledge and stuff like that. Once again, we had a discussion with the Forest Rangers, and you asked, where they get their stuff. Forest Ranger Association, that brought that up, and that was a good donation to do because they need some help.
Definitely.
So thank you all once again. Yep. Awesome. So $1,000 back in the Catskills, kicking ass, taking names. So
yeah. All right.
Thank you to the monthly supporters: Jeff Jotz, Vicky Ferraro, Mikey S., John Comiskey, Summit Seekers, Desert City Radio, Betsy A., Denise W., Tom H., Vanessa, Jim C., and Eric. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. Once again, your money goes right back in the Catskills. Also, thank you to the amazing sponsor of this show. First is Outdoor Chronicles Photography. So Molly specializes in adventure couple photography. She'll immortalize your moments amidst the stunning landscapes of the Catskills, Adirondacks, and White Mountains. She'll craft timeless images that reflect a unique bond in nature's grandeur. Embark on an unforgettable photographic journey with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Don't hesitate to get a hold of Molly on all platforms. Also, discover the wilderness with Trail Brown Project. Our expert-led hiking and backpacking education program offer unparalleled outdoor experiences. Whether you're a beginner or seasoned adventurer, join us to learn essential skills, explore stunning trails, and connect with nature. Start your journey today with Trail Brown Project and unlock the wonders of the great outdoors. So, this is going to be a long segment. We've been gone for 2 weeks, and then suddenly a lot of people start tagging us and everything. So it's pretty crazy. It's awesome.
Yeah. Everybody wanted to make us envious for not being out and hiking the past couple of weeks.
Yeah. They're like, good luck to keep up. And I was just like, God damn. Yeah. So who's outdoors? So Richie's Nature Escapes, my friend Richie, went to Montana for 3 or 4 days. Looks like on the first day, day 2, morning hike was 7 miles on the Upper McDonald Creek Trail, and then an evening hike 2 miles to Rocky Point. Day 3 was Avalanche Lake. A little busy, but worth it. 3 mile steady climb. Kids were doing fantastic, had a fun time. The best part of Glacier is no matter where you look, the view amazes you. Richie looks like he had a fantastic time, tagged us a bunch of stuff up in Glacier National Park. I look forward to going there. He beat me to it, man. He's up there at a good time. They still had snow and everything. That glacier water looks phenomenal. I don't know if you follow Richie or Richie follows you, but got some good stuff.
Yeah, I'll have to check out his feed.
Amazing. So also, who could not go out and not tag us is Tom Who's Outdoors. So did a partial actual bushwhack up Fly, started on Route 3 at almost to the cabin and went into the woods after that. Was supposed to be the woods road to the top. They found it, but way off from the map, so it was a partial bushwhack in finding it. They said they got to the western side of the top of Fly, and that's where the bushwhack actually started. Found the actual summit of Fly as marked on the map and continued to the canister. So that was his social hike 32 of 33. This last one is Rusk. So.
Yeah. Before I knew better, that's how I went up Fly the first time.
Oh, nice.
It was the old road on the what I'll call the backside of Fly.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And then once I
took your Jeep up it.
No. This was I had the week before I was actually in Florida with the family, and I came back on the plane, and the next day I headed up to do Fly in Bear Pen. And it was April, and I remember hiking up the backside of Fly, and I'm telling you, I hit waist deep snow.
Oh,
the snow was just incredible, and it was one of those hikes where you're having a hard time making progress. But I finally, I make the summit, and then I'm searching for the canister. I'd never been up there before, so the logical thing is to go where your map shows the summit to be. There was no can to be found. So I probably wandered around, and everybody's going to laugh at this, but I wandered around the top of Fly for 20, 25 minutes to find the canister.
That'll happen.
That was my first experience on Fly.
Nice. Yeah. Tom was up there, probably had a memorable one too. It looked kind of wet.
Yeah.
Also, Redhead Adventure Guys was at Wyndham. So awesome job. Wyndham's back open to the public. So I was actually looking across at it today from Camel's Hump. So Rachel Jean, the Gypsy Queen, was in Great Smoky Mountains. The first time she tagged us, she said it was a cave somewhere. So didn't really get the actual name. She didn't say the name. And then the next one was it's called Kuwali Peak. Is that how they say it, right? It used to be Klingman's Dome, but they renamed it to Kuwali Peak. Mm-hmm. So the highest point on the East Coast. So she was at the highest point in the East Coast. So awesome job, Rachel. Just keep kicking ass. And Smokies looked fantastic. I can't wait to go down there sometime.
Yeah.
I don't want to be eaten by a bear, though, down in Ashbury or something, or one of those towns that they have there. They got they have bears running around like crazy down there.
And I hear Sasquatches down there.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
Probably people high on mushrooms as well.
That's who sees Sasquatch.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So Tom Hoos was also at Tiller Ravine, went to Raymond's Kill Cliffs for some phenomenal views and an undercast overlooking the views. Awesome photos. Go check out Who's Outdoors for his great photos of the Raymond Kill Cliffs. Just looked like he was having a fantastic time up there. Those undercasts are just absolutely stunning. I don't know. I don't think I have yet to experience one in my life that I have done an undercast to where I'm above the clouds or the fog. So not yet. Good job. So Josh Kingsbury, congratulations on being 3,500 member number 4398. So congratulations. Yay. Awesome. He did a little post about his plaque and everything. Did a great job of doing a patch around there. It looked fantastic. So congratulations, Jock. Also, Kata Kwazatic did the Burroughs Range and Panther on 527. Awesome. Good job. Killed it. So Sean, aka the Long Island Hiker, reached out to us and said that he was having a great time doing the Appalachians Trail, and he was near mile number 764 on the Blue Ridge Parkway. So he's getting close to halfway.
Yeah.
So
quite an effort. Good luck to him.
So yeah, Sean, thanks for reaching out. Haven't heard from you in a while. You haven't tagged us, so congratulations and keep kicking ass. So Pink Pony, 818. Tracy met Vicky of the Berkshires and did a section of the Appalachian Trail. They went from Home Road to the East Mountain State Forest to the Ice Gulch and back for 8.4 miles. Sounds pretty cool. The Berkshires is one of those places I want to go to.
Yeah, it's they got an older feel to them. So
cool.
Older than the Catskills, they feel like.
Really? Like what? What do you mean?
Softer, rounder.
Oh,
yeah,
that way. Ooh, nice. Sounds good. Also, Catskill mountain hiker hiked the worst conditions of his 2.5 years of hiking. Due to his upcoming trip in the Adirondacks and only having 3 peaks left for the 3,500, it felt it needed to be done. He met Jeff Jotz, 31 of 43, only West Hill and Southwest Hunter Lane. Was left hoping to do them today, but he got too drenched. I'm pretty sure he was up on Catskill High Peak. So that was some interesting photos. It did not look fun because it was just all rain.
Yeah, and then they had to at least cross the moat to get up there.
Yeah, God, that was sucked.
Yeah, they should put a zip line over it.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be that long.
No,
right? Or like a ooh, that would be. We'll have to think about that. We'll have to talk to OSI to put in some new stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a must-do project, though.
So Jeff Jotz also is this is, I'm guessing, where he met the Catskill mountain hiker. He's done many hikes in the heavy rain, but never bushwhacked straight up a mountain before, with skies pouring down buckets of rain on Orla. Soldiered through Round Top and Catskill High Peaks in the wind, rain, and met stinging nettles. He was told their view from Hurricane Ledge, but he put 0 stars, would not recommend. So unfortunately, Jeff did not get a view on Catskill High Peak. Actually, phenomenal view at Hurricane Ledge. So I'm so sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, well, Jeff needs to be reminded that sometimes the best view is not from a particular vantage point. It's the entirety of the hike,
True.
So I kind of like Round Top, Catskill High Peak. It's a good hike, some interesting terrain. As long as you can avoid the mud and the stinging nettles, you'll be okay.
Yeah, right. You can avoid that on Catskill High Peak. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but
if you go in November.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. So there you go. There's your plan next time.
Yeah.
So hiker Joey, aka Joe T, was at Rochester Hollow. Went up there in the rain again. So I'm glad all these people are getting out in the rain. So that's
that's
cool.
all it's been doing in the Catskills is raining.
That's true.
Right.
I don't know. I haven't been there.
That's all I've seen, man. High water. Yeah.
And also Jim C did a tough race at Plattekill Mountain Race, but had a great time. It was pretty cold, he said. Traversed up and down 2 double black diamond trails and 1 regular black diamond ski trail. So, Tad, with you being a skier, what are these black diamonds? I know they're the doubles and stuff like that are pretty crazy.
Yeah, so Plattekill's got some legit black diamond terrain. Depending on which list you look at least one of their trails makes the top 10 list for steepest trails in the Northeast. I think that's the run they call the plunge at Plattekill, but Plattekill's a great ski area. They don't blow a lot of snow, so they need a hefty amount of natural snow to make the terrain skiable. But when they have natural snow, it's a great place to go and ski. Not that you should go there, because the old timers who like to ski there would prefer that you stay away.
True. So these black diamond trails are just steep, straight up and down?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're your classic East Coast. Well, I'm not going to say classic East Coast. I mean, they're a newer style of East Coast. We're going to just have a wide run going up or down the fall line. Plattekill does have some terrain, which is more old school, that, zigzags around the mountain, but some of their black diamond and double diamond runs are just top to bottom straight. And if he was that's hardcore. And even going down them, I mean, that's still got to be painful going down them either way. And I imagine with all the rain that they recently got, the footing must have been tricky. And rumor has it you got to pay to sign up for one of these events. It's not like you or I going out and hiking Plattekill Mountain where we hike it for free. Jim presumably paid an entrance fee to go out and suffer like he did. So poor Jim, if you see Jim, buy him a beer.
Yeah, please. Yeah, good job, Jim. Amazing. So once again, thank you everybody for tagging us in the show. Once again, you could tag us by doing at the big A sign with a circle around it, ITL Catskill MTM podcast in your post, and we'll chat about them. Thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate it while we were gone. I hope we didn't make you too depressed while we were gone. So buy us a hard cider to support the show if you think we're doing a good job. If you want to show us some report and show the Catskills some support, buy us a coffee/hard cider on buymeacoffee.com. Also, rate the show. Any platform you can. It helps us out, I guess, some way. So I already cracked mine open, so I will go with mine. I don't know if you're having anything, Tad, but I'm having Hudson North Blueberry Lemonade. I was supposed to have one of these down in South Carolina when Jessica and I were going to do a paint and sip and show everybody all these amazing hard ciders that we have in upstate New York. But that paint and sip got canceled. So she said something about she was at an airport waiting. I'm just like, what? It's 3 days away. So
Paint and sip?
Yeah, we were going to paint the sunset on the beach.
Wow. Okay. Sounds fun.
Why are you smiling like that? What's that little smile? A little cheesy?
Yeah, I'm not saying that. Sounds like, wow, that sounds like a great thing to do. The old paint and sip. Damn, I wish I had known that. Maybe I wouldn't have gone out to Death Valley with my daughter. I would have gone down to, where was that? Hilton Head? Is that where you were?
Hilton Head Island. That's correct.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds expensive.
No. I was a little sad. But do you have anything?
Well, it's the first Tuesday of the month, and the first Tuesday of the month is a non-alcoholic beverage. So I'm just drinking. I'm having my first iced coffee of the summer. That's what I'm doing.
Nice. Yeah, it's pretty nice out. It's a high, around 80 here today. So it's
the warmest it's been in a week and a half.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, Hudson North, supposed to have it down. And Hilton Head, we went down to Hilton Head for 7 days. Fantastic time sitting on the beach, reading books, enjoying the hot weather. You said you saw a bunch of military planes. I got to see a couple as well. We saw a CH-47, one of the Chinook helicopters, the massive ones, fly over, hover around, and then depart. It was fantastic. Cool thing because you could hear in the distance, you hear those choppers just like it's crazy. And then later on, I see a plane coming. I'm like, wow, that's flying really low. And I'm like, wow, that's a massive plane. It was one of those C-130s that carries all the Hummers and everything like that, flying super low, like 300-400 feet above us, just flying like that. You can see all the diesel pouring out from it in the back. I was just like, wow, this is super cool. It happens every year. Every time we go down there, we do it on Memorial Day. We did it this year on Memorial, like the same time, because we like to do it because everybody comes for Memorial Day and then leaves, and then we have the beach to ourselves.
Yeah.
This wasn't the case this time because apparently the day after or the week before, everybody graduated. So now everybody was on the beach. So the day after Memorial Day, we come out to the beach at 10 o'clock and the beach is packed full.
Wow.
We're like, shit. But we got a spot. We got to meet some cool people. So
when you say it was packed, was it packed to the extent that you really have to hunt around to find a place to, throw out your blanket and your towel and your beach chair?
No, we walked. We walked to the place that we always used to. We pitch what's it called? An umbrella and stuff. Like we just walked probably 50 feet down and there was spots available. Okay. But everybody was probably a good 20 feet apart from each other. And
that's tolerable.
Hey, it is. And there was like high tide. So that's when like people started getting like closer and closer because you can't. And when there's low tide, people go freaking like, it's so far. It's so crazy, but beautiful weather. We had like low 80s during the day to mid 80s. And there was thunderstorms here and there. So there was one time when Jessica and I were out on the beach and we could hear the thunder in the distance. Mm-hmm. And then the lightning, we see the lightning. And we see like nobody moves. So we're like, I guess we're okay. So we like still stay out there. Half an hour later, it's starting to lightning a little bit more and more frequent. I'm like, yeah, maybe we should get out of here. And everybody starts leaving. So that was a fun time. But that was what I was doing. So, but it was a great time. So you were out in Death Valley, but you get your whole episode later on.
Yeah.
We get a couple weeks from now. You get a whole episode about that. I can't wait to hear about that.
Yeah, my screenwriters are working the script up right now. It's going to be great, fantastic. So
I'm excited. Is Sophie going to join us?
Well, I'll ask her. I'll ping her and see. But she's such a free spirit that she doesn't commit more than 15 minutes in advance. So.
Well, you tell her Stosh from inside the line, the Catskills is interested. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And then somebody calls her up and says, hey, let's go climbing.
Yeah, right.
And then all bets are off.
Hey, no problem with that. I do not blame her. So Tad, you were actually out this weekend. You want to talk about your previous hike?
Yeah. So, I had missed the last 2 weekends hiking because I was traveling with my daughter. And I come back and we have all this rain. I mean, it was just rain. As Jeff Jotz will tell you, too much rain. So I didn't go out on Saturday. I wanted to go out on Sunday and hike, but I didn't want to go out on something that was going to be like the trail was going to be a flowing river. And I didn't want to deal with bushwhacking and the mud and muck. And, I was looking for something that would be short, moderate intensity, and a fun hike. So I did the traditional, tried and true hike up Friday and Balsam Cap from the Moon Haw. And there's one thing about that hike, because, when I hike it, I don't often hike it off of the Moon Haw.
You did the herd path?
Yeah, the herd path is exceedingly well defined. So well defined that this, for the most part, doesn't qualify, as a bushwhack. There are some spots because of blowdown and other things where the trail is faint, where you have to do workarounds. But for the most part, the trail is very, very well established. It is vertical gain right from, the front bumper of your car. You start climbing up that first grade. But, it's a great hike. And no matter how many times I've hiked that hike and been to the summits of those two mountains, I always enjoy that hike. What was notable is, as I expected, it's well drained. I didn't come into any mud, any water, any muck, nothing like Jeff Jotz did. I did, over the course of the day, run into 6 other hikers or hiking groups. And what was interesting is, of the 6 people that I ran into, 3 of the 6 were doing the 9.
Nice.
Two of them were doing the 9 in a counterclockwise direction. That was Cool Sarah, and God, I forget the fellow she was hiking with offhand. And then the other fellow was this guy, Matt, who was hiking it clockwise. And I ran into each of them within about 15 minutes of each other when I was on Balsam Cap. And then I ran into a young couple who was doing their first time through the 3,500 and doing Friday, and Balsam Cap were the, I think, 5th and 6th mountains that they had done. So I thought it was impressive that they set out to do Friday and Balsam Cap, which at least way back when I did them for the first time had a reputation for being difficult hikes. Yeah. And then I ran into this other fellow, Robert, from Albany who was working on a single season, and he was doing. I met those folks, all of them, on Friday, and then I bumped into again on Balsam Cap. So it was interesting to run into 6 people. Sometimes I can do that hike and you don't run into anyone. Sometimes you run into a lot of people, but it was fun. Good choice of hikes to, cut my teeth again into some Catskill hiking and become reacquainted with things that grow out of the ground, old trees. Because when I was in Death Valley, you didn't see a lot of trees.
Yeah. Nice, man. Yeah, it's an interesting choice for you, usually going up Friday and like a herd path, though. Like, usually you want to be off path with that.
Yeah, well, so the other options was I was thinking about doing the 6, but I didn't want to hit the Never Sink because of the high water. And, there's some mucky sections to go through. And then I was going to hike Balsam Cap and Friday off of, Watson Hollow Road.
Yeah.
But again, you run into some punky soil conditions coming through there. Although I did go over there after I hit Balsam Cap and explore around because it's an interesting area. But, I had to get home because on Saturday I didn't get a chance to mow the lawn, and I needed to get home relatively early on Sunday to get out there and mow the lawn, because when I was away for the 8 or 9 days out west, the lawn with all that rain kind of got out of control, and it was in need of a second mowing. So I got home, mowed the lawn, crossed off a few things on the never-ending honey-do list, and watch the Yankees game.
Nice. That sounds good. Yeah, I had to mow the lawn as well when I got back. I was like, Jesus, gotta get this crap going. So excellent. So today, I got out to Thomas Cole Mountain from Barnum Road and did my trail maintenance. So that was cool. That was nice. It was a little, once again, that beginning of that hike is very wet. It was freaking just a bunch of, rocks all over the place and stuff. Once you get up to the trailhead register, it gets better, a little bit better. Mm-hmm. But there's the mud and stuff like that. But I just love that hike so much. I don't know why, but it has like everything, switchbacks, like there's a little part, that one steep spot before Claudel's Hill, before you get up that viewpoint, is nice little climb, and then you have going from Claudel's Hill all the way to Camel's Hump, just nice, beautiful flat terrain that you can fly on. Yeah. And that's what I had to do today because I had a doctor's appointment at 9:30, telehealth one. So I went out. I was at what's it called, the Hickory Hill, sitting there talking to my doctor, and I'm like, come on, yeah. I was like, come on, let's go. I got to get, like, he's like, so what are you doing today? I'm like, I'm going to be hiking as soon as I get off this thing. He's like, oh, okay. And he starts talking. I got to, no, let's go. So I had to fly over there and then fly back here for our interview with Tom. So I was flying up the mountain, and I barely stopped to get up there. I probably set the fastest known time getting up to Camel's Hump. It was at least 25 minutes, maybe. No, it was an hour and 5 minutes. So it's fast known time. I'm going to put that in.
Yeah, well, it's your fastest known time. So what was the trail conditions like? Did you have a lot of work up there?
So what's awesome? I love my area going from Camel's Hump to Thomas Cole. There's the section is very unique, and so there's a lot of growth. So I had a lot of work, and like what I use is, it's not even a weed whacker. I don't even know. It's like a satchel, but it's old school satchel. So it sucks. You got to go back and forth. It works really good with the ferns and stuff. And I hate cutting,
like a sickle thing.
Sickle. Yeah, sickle. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
So I have one of those, and it works great with the ferns, but with that thick grass, it sucks. It just knocks them over and sideways. So. And with the ferns, there's ferns growing all over the place, and they're short, but they're hanging over the trail. So like, I got to cut them back. I don't want to, because I think ferns are beautiful, and it adds to the experience of just flying through those ferns. But I've been yelled at my trail is being covered and stuff. And so I had to cut them back. It was a lot of work. It was I did 3 hours and 5 minutes of hiking time, but I also did like an hour of short little, probably not even a quarter of a mile of cutting stuff back. And it was it was a workout.
So you have a lot more to do then, don't you?
No, I only have that Camel's Hump to Thomas Cole, so that's only a mile.
Okay. You got everything taken care of up there then? Trails clear and ready for action?
Yeah, until I go up there probably in freaking August. Until I have to again. My area grows so fast. It's just, I don't know, it gets a lot of good rain and it holds it well, so it doesn't dry up. So
yeah, well, there's a lot of organic material up there, to hold the moisture. Whereas some of these other summit areas and, other areas in the Catskills, there's just not a lot of earth to hold the moisture for roots to grow in. And so the other than the nettles, nothing really grows there. But yours is, it's an interesting area. It's almost got like a pygmy forest up there.
Yeah. And that's what I love about it. I can't it's 2,100 feet of gain. I think the whole hike. So it's like 5 point something miles, but 2,100 feet. That's a hell of a gain. I gotta admit. And it's just one of those like times of where you're like flying through the forest and you're looking at all the trees. There's one spot where I think it was before Camel's Hump. Right. You go up and there's just open forest all over the place, massive open forest. And I'm just like, I'm like, wow, it looks a little bit different when it's in the spring than it does like the summer of the time. I love it. You get up to Camel's Hump and I'm very glad they actually cut some of that part to overlook Windham High Peak and part of the northern Catskills and stuff that you can see, because it was growing in. I don't know if you've been back to the Thomas Cole area, remember that below Thomas Cole, when you start ascending, there's that one viewpoint that overlooks Camel's Hump. You can see the Christmas tree.
Yes.
That's starting to grow in so much that it's starting to grab into the Camel's Hump that you can't even see the Christmas tree. That forest is growing like crazy.
Yeah. I haven't been past Camel's Hump in quite some time.
Oh, we'll have to go there. I'll have to show you how to.
I'm looking at my tracks and I see that my last time going through there was February 2020.
Oh my God.
Just before the pandemic. I remember that hike. I was with Jim Booten, Margaret, and a couple others. And on that hike is when I learned that my daughter got accepted to the college she wanted to go to.
Nice.
So I thought that was cool. But I become too accustomed to doing the blacks via bushwhack. So.
Yeah, the next time I would like to go up bushwhack that I have time. I didn't have time on this, so I knew if I was on the trails, I could fly down. Like I seriously flew down, and I flew up. Next time I would like to try to go up from the north. That one little block of land that you can go up Camel's Hump, and then I could do my trail maintenance there. So, but I knew if I bushwhacked, I couldn't fly back down because of footing and stuff. I would probably break my ankle. So. But everything's good up there. Everything's great. Thank you very much to everybody who has followed the trail, because my section is one muddy section. There's a good amount of muddy section. Everybody has went right through the trail and hasn't gone off the trail and hasn't widened it. So whoever's doing that, which is very few people do, they don't really like to go from Barnum Road. They get to Thomas Cole and they go back to Black Dome. Thank you for doing that, because it looks great. It feels great. I love that trail. So thank you once again. Awesome time, but I had a great day. The wildfires didn't hit as a time. Did you know that we had the wildfire smoke here in the past couple of days?
I did smell some smoke outside over the weekend, but I thought it was people burning wood stoves and fireplaces because it was so cold outside.
I think you were right on that one. I think you are absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So there's if you go outside and look right now with the sunset, the the sun is just dark orange, really, really dark orange because we have the wildfire smoke. So I'm over from Canada. So, oh, awesome. Awesome. So I also wanted to let you know that, I'll talk to you about this at the end. So Catskill News volunteer 3500 Club, Catskill Trail Crew, Catskill Mountains Club Visitor Center, Jolly Rover Trail Crew, volunteer wherever you can. New York, New Jersey Trail Conference, volunteer there as well. Why don't I have them on here? What the hell? Amazing. Volunteer. I will get a list of what trails are available, and you should volunteer and do it. So weather forecasts. What do we got going on? So what kind of, or I should probably say what kind of shit we got going on this week in New York State, because that's what's always happening. So I'm looking at, I don't know why I'm looking at Overlook Mountain, but Overlook's not really a good reference for,
wouldn't be my top choice.
Yeah. And then it's telling me Mount Jefferson and freaking, let's look at North Dome. How about North Dome? That's a good one.
All right.
Yeah, that's definitely different. So Friday, looks like we have some rain and thunderstorms Friday morning. Total of accumulation of maybe an inch of rain, a high of 63, a low of 55 at night. Going into Saturday, light rain, and then an occasional thunderstorm, a high of 50 or 61, a low of 48 at night. Total accumulations around not even a quarter of an inch. And then Sunday, it looks like it's going to be beautiful, with a high of 57 and a low of 43 with clear skies on Sunday. Winds are not going to be a significant factor at all, not really anymore because of the wind chill, but doesn't look like anything's reaching above 20 miles per hour. So looks like it's going to be a okay weekend to hike. Just bring your range gear and stuff like that, and mud boots and stuff, muck boots, whatever. So.
And leave your mushrooms at home.
Correct. But it's not a dry place, so you can bring your hard cider. So, all right. So let's get on to the last set of sponsors, and then we'll get on to Tom from Open Space Institutes. All right. So discover Camp Catskill in Tannersville, your ultimate hiking store. Find top quality gear, apparel, and accessories for all your outdoor adventures. Our expert staff is here to help every hiker from beginners to seasoned pros. We carry a variety of unique Catskill souvenir gifts. Visit us online at campcatskill.co or in the store to gear up for your next journey. Adventure starts at Camp Catskill. Also, we'll embark on a transformative journey with Another Summit. Another Summit is dedicated to serving veterans and first responders with free outdoor activities. Activities like walks in nature, paddling, hiking, and even backpacking. Join our supportive community to rejuvenate in nature's embrace. Experience camaraderie, adventure, and healing at no cost. Take your next step with Another Summit and ascend to new heights of resilience and joy. Apply today on anothersummit.org. All right, so let's get on to the guest of the night.
Let's go.
So tonight, Tom Gravel joins us from Open Space Institutes, OSI, formerly called. They recently did some purchasing of land in the Catskills area, and it was the biggest purchase in, well, how many years was it? Like 25 years?
Yeah. Hi, Stash, and hi, Tad. Yeah, this is Tom, and this is the what we think will be the largest addition to the Catskill Park in about 25 years once we do transfer it to New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. So yeah, kind of an exciting thing to just recently happen.
Hell yeah. It's pretty cool. We look forward to it. Tad and I have been scoping out the area and seeing what we could have fun with. So before we dig into Blue Hill and, open OSI and stuff like that, can you tell a little bit about a background about yourself, sir?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So again, my name is Tom Gravel. I'm a senior project manager with Open Space Institute or OSI for shorthand. So I work on land conservation projects for OSI in the Catskills, in the Hudson Valley, a little bit in northern New Jersey. And I've been with OSI for a little over 12 years. And before coming to Open Space Institute, I worked at a similar organization called the Trust for Public Land, and I was there for about 8 years. doing similar work. But like at OSI, I've been working with some great people at OSI, and then also at Trust for Public Land, had a chance to really work with some great mentors. Rose Harvey was the Mid-Atlantic Regional Director of Trust for Public Land at the time. She then went on to become New York State Parks Commissioner for 8 years under Governor Cuomo, and then another mentor at TPL who I also overlapped with at OSI, Eric Kulisade. He was also State Parks Commissioner for 4 or 5 years, and recently became president of OSI. So I get to not only work on some cool projects, but work with some great people as well.
So what about like yourself, Tom? Like besides the OSI stuff like that, have you been involved in like hiking before? You know, when you were a kid, stuff like that, growing up, Catskill stuff like area. Where were you like generally based when you were younger and in the 20s?
Yeah, sure. Well, I did not grow up in New York. I grew up in the Boston area. So yeah, I in the summers we would get out a lot in New England, going up to New Hampshire, exploring the White Mountains, and had chances too to explore coastal Maine and Acadia National Park. And so I think being outdoors in those areas was a great experience for me growing up, and maybe helped to kind of lead me to this path maybe in a way.
I was going to say White Mountains, Acadia, stuff like that. So you're an outdoor enthusiast naturally, and then this just came about.
I guess my parents weren't super into camping, but at the same time, they did take us to some fun places and get us outside a lot. And then later when I actually became a parent, my wife and I decided we would be a family that camped. So we bought all the gear for car camping, and when our kids were younger, we did get to go out and experience a lot of the places that OSI has helped to protect over the years. And so we've become enthusiasts of the Shawangunks and the Catskills, and just a great way to kind of spend family time getting outside.
Awesome.
So Tom, speaking of a great time and lots of fun, why don't you tell us about OSI? What does it do for those who don't know? And maybe we'll do a dive into some of the data in terms of its size and scope, but just generally tell us what OSI is about.
Sure. So OSI, Open Space Institute, we're a land conservation organization. We work up and down the East Coast, and we protect land for a number of reasons. We protect land that provides opportunities for public recreation. We also protect land in order to safeguard drinking water and land that helps to provide clean air. We also look at land and property that provides natural defenses in the face of extreme weather and climate change. And then we also protect land that provides habitat for plants and animals. We were founded in 1974, and since then we have expanded out from New York, and we now have a presence down in the Southeast United States, where we work on projects in South Carolina and in Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. But we still focus a great deal of our work right here in New York, and the Hudson Highlands, the Shawangunks, the Capital Region, Adirondacks, and the Catskills remain kind of some of our core focus areas. And so at OSI, we have a whole host of programs, but kind of three of our main programs are our land program, where we're doing that direct land acquisition work. We're working with willing landowners in order to create new parks and open space. But then we also have a program called our OSI Parks program. And that's a little bit more recent program at OSI, where we have planners, landscape architects on staff that help to really enhance the visitor experience at parks and open spaces. And by that, I mean, we've helped to actually develop and build new visitor centers. The relatively new visitor center at Thatcher State Park is an example. Another one is the visitor center at Minnewaska State Park. And then we've also helped to restore and enhance trails. So yeah, again, I'm focusing on Minnewaska because we've done a lot of work there, both in terms of land protection to expand the park, but we've also done a lot of work to restore a lot of the carriage roads at Minnewaska, and so that's a program that has been more recently pretty successful. And then another program at OSI is our Capital Strategies program, where we identify funding many times through foundations, and then we're able to set up grant programs that allocate that funding to other land trusts that are protecting land. And an example of that is the Delaware River Watershed Protection Fund that was funded by the William Penn Foundation. They provided us with $21 million, and over about 12 years, we were able to disperse roughly 70 grants to help protect the watershed of the Delaware River. And it wasn't just that 21 million that was provided to us by William Penn. It was that 21 million helped to leverage another 100 million from other funding sources. So yeah, so those are some of the three main programs at OSI that we work on here in order to advance our land protection mission.
Interesting.
So Tom, to put it in perspective, is there any larger open space institute or land trust in the United States bigger than OSI?
Well, yeah. So OSI, we have grown over the years, and we're about 80 staff people now. Yeah, like I said, working up and down the East Coast. Our main office is in New York City, an office in Albany, an office in Beacon, and then we do have another office down in Charleston, South Carolina. But yeah, so I think we're more of a conservation organization that is focused on the East Coast, whereas there are other organizations such as the Trust for Public Land that I mentioned, which is a more national organization in scope, the Nature Conservancy, which is actually global. And then there's organizations such as the Conservation Fund, which has more of like a national kind of reach. But but in terms of our geography, we kind of align with sort of like the spine of the Appalachian Mountains, stretching from Maine all the way down to Georgia, then into Florida, where we've done some work. So yeah, so our focus is more sort of eastern region, basically.
Would you say that OSI is in the top 5 or top 10 in terms of its size in the country?
Yeah, I guess I don't know the exact. Wouldn't be able to see the exact where we are in terms of size, but I'd say probably top 10 or so. I'd say we do have a fairly strong reach in the East Coast, and especially in New York, we do work across the state, although we do have specific focus areas where we like to continue focusing our work.
Mm-hmm. And so you're one of the big players in the land conservation field. What's your annual budget? Do you have an idea what the annual budget is just for operations, not necessarily acquisitions, but just the back office of OSI?
Yeah, that is a good question. I should have our finance folks here with us, but I think we have in terms of all our operations, keeping the lights on, and then helping to fund all our work. We're in the 40 to 50 million, I think, kind of budget area. Yeah. And
is Elon Musk one of your biggest donors? Well, you don't have to answer that question. What's the source of your primary funding? Is it donations, government support, something else?
So we do have funding through the Wallace Endowment, which was a funding source that was provided to us by the Wallace Foundation back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so we're able to use a percentage of that to help fund our land conservation work and to fund our operations, although it doesn't fund everything. And so we do look to other sources of funding, foundations, private individuals, to help fund our work. And a lot of the times when we're doing our land conservation work, we are able to secure properties sort of in advance of while we sort of wait for other public agencies to be the ultimate long-term owners and managers of property. So a lot of the times we're acting as a facilitator, although Open Space Institute does own and manage some property. A lot of the time what we're doing is helping to facilitate land conservation. And we work a lot with the state agencies, New York State Parks and New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, which oversees a lot of the state forests and wildlife management areas, things like that. So we're able to, since we're a private nonprofit, we can act a little bit more nimbly and speed up the process in terms of acquiring land from a willing landowner. But then we will eventually look to sell that property to a public agency. And when we do that, we look to recoup our costs so that we can then use that funding to advance our work in those same focus areas. So looking to kind of revolve that capital so we can continue to do our work.
Interesting.
Two more quick questions before I turn it back to Stosh and talk about Blue Hill. Who was Wallace, the fellow with all the money for the endowment? Was
Ben Wallace from the Detroit Pistons?
No, it was the Wallace Foundation. It was actually the charitable foundation that spun off from Reader's Digest. That was their foundation. And so back in the late 90s and early 2000s, we were one of the beneficiaries of part of that funding. Some of it went to Open Space Institute.
So you guys were like the winners. Remember that Ed McMahon, the Reader Digest sweepstakes, right? They felt guilty for cutting down all those trees for their magazines. Okay. Just roughly, how many employees does Open Space have?
We have, roughly 80 staff members. So we've got project managers, we have in-house attorneys, our finance folks, communications folks, our philanthropy team, our mapping, our GIS team. We have folks doing, like I said, our parks program. So we have planners and landscape architects on staff. So a whole host of people that contribute to this work.
Awesome. Yeah. So now let's get back onto you for a little bit. So senior project land manager for the Northeast. That's what you are?
I am. That's right.
That sounds very complicated. Like for the Northeast. Damn. So like with this Blue Hill purchase, you have other areas that you go into. Correct. Now, like, what is that like? What can you tell me what being a senior project land manager is?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I do have those like focus areas of the Catskills, of kind of the southern Hudson Valley, and also northern New Jersey. And the overarching goal is to protect land, and we do work with willing landowners. And so, I'm nominally the project manager on like the Blue Hill project, but I work with a team of other folks, like a lot of the people I just mentioned. But it's getting out on the land, identifying good candidates that have a lot of those attributes that I mentioned at the beginning of the show that provide that help to safeguard clean water, provide habitat, recreational opportunities, those kinds of things. And so it's working with landowners, it's working with public agencies, and it's working with local land trusts. So OSI in New York is a good size we're a good sized entity, but we do rely a lot on like local land trusts, and one of the land trusts that we've worked with a lot in the Catskills and Eastern Catskills, and I think you had Andy Mossy on recently on your podcast, and so we've worked a lot with Andy and Kevin Smith and folks at Woodstock Land Conservancy over the years. And so, yeah, working with like local community partners who really have their eyes and ears on the ground, and because yeah, we're 80 staff, but we still we're spread over a large geography. So yeah, it's like working with those local partners who really know the priorities in the community, and so yeah, having those. I think when I was at Trust for Public Land, there was a Will Rogers was the president at the time, and he would often say, "You come for the land and you stay for the people." And so, yeah, that's often resonated where our work is to conserve land and conserve these critical places, but it's the people that I end up working with, both at OSI and outside the organization, that is I also find worthwhile.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, Andy was on here. It was a great time. And that's great that you work with other organizations as well. That brings a stronger kind of bond to have to protect these spaces that we have, and it's so cool. That's awesome. I didn't know about that. I didn't know if you guys were like competition, and this is like the old like where Tad was out Wild West days, where you guys would shoot each other for properties or something like that, build walls, stuff like that. I don't know. Be like, we want this property.
Well, I can mention a project that we worked with Woodstock Land Conservancy not that long ago at the Bluestone Wild Forest, which is in the kind of like the southeastern section of the Catskill Park, and
that was big.
So Bluestone Wild Forest we worked on this property about just a little over 200 acres that kind of helped to sort of unite the two sections of the wild forest. There's the Onteora Lake section to the west, which contains a really nice lake and some hiking trails there. And then there's the Jockey Hill section in the east, which was sort of place for mountain biking. And but it's sort of like kind of disconnected. And so by acquiring this 200 acres with the help of Woodstock Land Conservancy, we were able to sort of like kind of bring together those two sections of the wild forest. But before transferring the property to New York State DEC, we did work with Woodstock Land Conservancy. We worked with this local bicycle advocacy organization called Fats and the Cats. And then we also worked with some local businesses, including Overlook Bicycles, based right in Woodstock, and with this trail development group called Tahawas Trails. And we were able to do some planning work, both like on the ground and then just plan for a trail that would kind of help to connect both the Onteora Lake section and the Jockey Hill section. And then we were able to do some fundraising, both OSI and Woodstock Land Conservancy. And together, WLC, I'm going to use a lot of acronyms here, DEC and OSI. So New York State, Woodstock Land Conservancy, and Open Space Institute, we held a public forum at the Senate Garage in Kingston in order to kind of just give folks a sense of what we were thinking, get some feedback. And it was just a really great, like, community-driven project where we were able to raise those funds. We developed the trail. And then once we were able to sell the property to DEC as an addition to the Bluestone Wild Forest, it was sort of like ready to go in a way. It was not just for mountain biking, but that was like a multi-use trail for hiking, just for nature viewing, that kind of thing. So, yeah, we really like value our partnership with the local land trust. And that's just a good example of how we were able to work with Woodstock Land Conservancy and the local community to kind of have a great conservation outcome.
Nice. That's great. That's great to hear. Well, once again, like all these organizations coming together and working strong to keep our land protected and stuff. So do you love about the Catskills and like your Northeast landscape? I know you have a good focus on the Catskills and stuff like that. So what do you love working with Open Space Institute about the Catskills?
Well, I mean, one of the cool things about the Catskills is that, yeah, I mean, you have like the Catskill Park is about 700,000 acres, and you've got mountains, streams, lakes, and also you have vibrant communities within the Catskill Park. But it's only less than or about 2 hours away from the largest metropolitan area in the country. So it's both a place where you can kind of experience wilderness, and you're not too far away from a lot of folks. But it also is a huge source of water quality and drinking water, and yeah, and just in terms of recreation, just all the different things you can do. You can camp, you can hike, you can ski, you can hunt, fish. There's just a lot that is on offer there. And just in terms of like working in New York State in general, it's a pretty like varied landscape, I'd say, from the First State Park at Niagara Falls all the way in the western part of the state down to one of the more popular beaches in the state, Jones Beach State Park. There's just a lot of variation, and New York State has a great state park system. You've got 250 state parks and historic sites. There's the Adirondack and Catskill forest preserves, which include nearly 3 million acres of forever wild forest land. And then there's been a lot of focus recently too on trails and how do you connect the different parks and open spaces, and our trail network, leading with the Empire State Trail, is also kind of a highlight that we can enjoy. So yeah, so there's a lot going on in this big state.
So you're basically busy all the time.
Yeah. We are busy, and yeah, there's a lot going on at OSI, and like we're focused on the land conservation. We're focused on helping to enhance existing parks and open space through our OSI Parks program, and then we're hoping to kind of help other land trusts in the region advance their own conservation goals and mission by providing them with the resources and the capital that will hopefully leverage other funding sources in order to help them do their work.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
So, Tom, tell us about the Blue Hill acquisition. Tell us about the property, I'm interested to hear how it got on the radar screen and what made it a interesting acquisition for OSI.
Sure. Well, it is a 3,100 acre, basically like a forested block. It's not divided by any public roads. It's located in the southwestern portion of the Catskill Park in the Sullivan County town of Neversink. It has a ridge line containing about 7 peaks that sort of go through the property from west to east, and those peaks are anywhere in elevation from 2,400 feet to 2,700 feet, and Blue Hill is the kind of the highest peak on the property at 2,700 feet. The other named peak in the property is Slauson Mountain, which some folks in the community likely know about. But when I think of this property, I do the first kind of benefit that like comes straight to mind is just water quality. The entire property is within the watershed of the Delaware watershed, but it's also since it's just above the Neversink Reservoir, it's a portion of it is also within the watershed of the New York City water supply. So it is helping all that rainwater that falls on Blue Hill is eventually coursing down to either to provide drinking water to New York City or the Delaware watershed basin. And so, we can kind of go into that a little bit, but since it's a mostly forested property, it's basically acting as like a natural filtration source where that rainwater is going into the forest. It's being cleaned both by the forest, but also by the geology. It's like sedimentary rock that's fairly porous, and is recharging the groundwater. It's recharging those high quality streams that feed into the Willowwemoc and the Beaverkill, which are high trout producing streams and kind of known as the birthplace of fly fishing in the U.S. So yeah, so there's that water quality aspect. There is the aspect of the fact that it's this forested block that is adjacent to the Willowwemoc Wild Forest, which is then adjacent to the Big Indian Wilderness. And so it's essentially adjacent to the 288,000 acres of forest preserve. And so that's a critical corridor for wildlife movement, for plants and animals. And then that forest is great in terms of providing, or will be great in terms of providing recreational opportunities. So in the adjacent Willowwemoc Wild Forest, there are public uses that are permitted, such as backcountry camping, hunting, fishing, hiking, skiing in the cross-country skiing in the winter. Snowmobiling is also allowed in the Willowwemoc. So eventually, our plan is to transfer the property to New York State DEC as an addition to the adjacent wild forest, and most likely a lot of those same uses will be permitted at the Blue Hill property. I can kind of go into more specifics about how we learned about the property and a little bit of the history, if that's helpful.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. My understanding is it had been owned for a long time by a developer who kind of had rekindled its plans for development, and somewhere along the course of that development review, I understand OSI got involved. So why don't you give us the lowdown on that? And then my next question is, if it's part of the watershed for the New York City water supply, why didn't the city of New York step in and buy all or part of the land? But first tell us how OSI got involved and what was going on before you guys got involved.
Sure. So it's our understanding that back in the 60s, there was a Romanian-Israeli architect and developer. His name was Moshe Mayer, and he assembled the property. And his vision was to basically create a new Catskill ski resort. And he did go ahead, and there were ski trails that were carved into the kind of the northern sloping ridge that goes down to Pole Road, and those ski trails are still there. I've hiked up them, and they actually do afford some nice views of the surrounding area. But the ski resort never did happen. It's my understanding that because Neversink was a dry town at the time, they decided that it wouldn't make economic sense to try to open a ski resort, I guess, without a liquor license. So it kind of just remained just vacant for a long time. And back in the early to mid about 2015 or so, we started inquiring, and we would reach out to the landowner and but just have kind of, in order to see if there would be any interest in a conservation sale, but we're always sort of like politely declined. But more recently, back in the spring of 2021, the then owner did present plans to develop the property into a kind of a mixed use, both resort. There would have been the plan did include 2 hotels with 30 to 60 rooms each. So there was this hospitality use, and then a retail component that would go along with the kind of the hotel or resort component of the proposed development. There were 180 multifamily units proposed, 75 or 80 single family homes. There was going to be commercial uses, senior living facility, glamping offered. So, and all of this would have been reliant on roads and new infrastructure, water treatment plant, that kind of thing. Since the property is in a rural conservation district, the owner at the time, the developer at the time, was seeking a change to the town master plan. And so he needed that in order to kind of move the proposal along. And so there were numerous town board meetings, there were presentations by the owner developer, and then there was a lot of public comment. And then so that went on for a little while, but then in October of 2022, the town board, they did unanimously vote to keep the town master plan as is, not to change it. Which didn't mean, it did mean that the developer could still develop the property as of right, which meant residential housing, but that he could not pursue that kind of larger scale mixed use development. So we learned in the summer of 2023 that there may be interest in a sale, basically, and so we were able to work with the landowner's broker. We negotiated a $6.2 million purchase of the property, and then we were able to close on it in February of this year, using a few different funding sources in order to get to that $6.2 million purchase price.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so why is it that the city of New York wasn't involved in this in terms of protecting its watershed?
So New York City Department of Environmental Protection, they did have an interest in a portion of the property. They had it seemed like they were interested in about 400 or 500 acres of the property. Whereas the Department of Environmental Conservation, the state agency, they were interested in the whole thing, essentially, because it would make for a good addition to the Willow-Weemock Wild Forest. So there I think there was some interest on DEP's part, but it was only for us. When you look at the whole thing, 3,100 acres, they were only interested in a kind of a smaller portion of areas that contain streams that would eventually feed into the Neversink River. And at this point, the Neversink River then flows into the Neversink Reservoir. But in terms of water quality, I mentioned that this property really helps to benefit water quality. And we were able to secure a grant from the Delaware River Watershed Protection Fund in the amount of $1.75 million. And that really helped us to advance this project, because OSI, we already have about $20 million of our own funding tied up in land purchases that we are intending to sell to either New York State Parks or to New York State DEC. And so for us to pursue this project, we did need to identify other funding sources. And so, so the Delaware River Watershed Protection Fund, which I mentioned at the top of this, at the program, it is a fund that Open Space Institute, another division of Open Space Institute, oversees. However, this was the first time that we were able to obtain a grant ourselves. And so that helped us advance the project. And then we were also able to secure basically like a $4 million reimbursable grant from a foundation out west. And their criteria is preserving wilderness-like areas of at least 3,000 acres that are adjacent to 20,000 acres of publicly protected land. So we don't find a whole lot of properties in this area that meet that criteria, but thankfully this project does.
So now, what would have happened if you didn't purchase Blue Hill? Would it just been stayed vacant or stuff, or do you think somebody might have snatched it later on and started to develop? Because we're seeing with the Catskills right now, we're seeing a lot of properties starting to develop. People starting to realize that the Catskills are getting more like what they used to be, more of a recreation outdoors area. So we're going to talk about that. Tad and I are going to talk about that a little later. The Black Bear Lodge was approved by the town. So Windham Mountain is starting to do more stuff. So do you think that would have happened, or do you think this could have been dragged like it has been for the past, like 50, 60 years?
Well, I think the reason that that proposed development didn't happen was because they did need a zoning, or they needed the town to amend their master plan. But the previous owner still could have pursued residential development because that's allowed as of right in that zone. So a 5-acre minimum lot size. I mean, there still are constraints in terms of the topography and some steep slopes and things like that. But I mean, it likely can be developed or could have been developed for residential use. So I think we were not the only potential buyer out there. I think luckily we were able to secure an agreement, but I think there definitely was a development threat out there for this property.
It looks like a really like special place, if you look at it on the maps and stuff like that, just even from Google Maps, you can see that, it is like not developed. There's that little ski part, which is pretty cool. But I mean, there's a lot of old trail logging roads, stuff like that. But it looks like a really special place. So, who knows that somebody could have snatched it for how much did you purchase it for?
Just over 6.2 million. Yeah.
Okay. So do you think like that later on, like they could have would have sorry to say, rich person would have come in and snatched it and done their stuff if they wanted to for over that?
I think it's very possible. Yeah, I think luckily we were able to secure it, and we were able to kind of move the project along so that it could close relatively quickly. And I think that's what the previous owner was interested in, kind of moving things along, expediting things so they could move on with any other plans they might have. But I mean, I think it's a property. It's a large property, so there was definitely the potential for some kind of development happening, and that large and intact forest could have been fragmented and divided up in certain ways.
So how do you guys purchase? How does this go about with buying something like this, a 3,100 acre lot of land, back and forth lawyers, you and guys talking to the owners, stuff like that, DEC? It sounds like freaking chaos to me. It's just a whole bunch of chaos.
Well, we do like to kind of have some indication from a public agency partner that if we are successful at securing a property, purchasing a property, that we can ultimately convey the property to the public agency for long-term ownership and management. We're not really set up to steward a property like this long-term. We don't have a huge stewardship department and stewardship budget. So whereas New York State, they kind of have their management plan already set up for the Willow Weemock Wild Forest, and it will likely be easy enough to kind of add this property to that management plan. So we did get an indication from New York State Department of Environmental Conservation that this was of interest, and they did tour the property with us, and kind of based on that, we were able to get the property appraised, so we had a better sense of fair market value. We then, taking that appraised value into account, we made an offer. The owner did accept the offer, and during the course of the time frame of that agreement, we commissioned an environmental assessment. We investigated title. We commissioned a new survey, and so I think it was the survey that took the longest. It's a huge property, and there were some neighboring encroachments that we worked with the previous landowner, and they were great actually in helping us resolve those encroachments by doing what's called as a boundary line adjustment. So we were able to address those, and then at the same time we were applying for those funding sources that I mentioned, the Delaware River Watershed Protection Grant and that $4 million grant from the foundation out west. And then we used about 500,000 of OSI's own capital. And so, yeah, we closed in February, and we're now getting a better handle on our own sort of how OSI is going to plan to manage the property during our ownership period, and working with New York State to eventually transfer the property to them.
Now, Tad, this is why I didn't take that position. That's why I didn't take that job. It sounds like way too much work. I mean, you look all happy, Tom, but
Yeah.
there's a local way.
Yeah. So well, the one perk I think Tom's going to tell us that he gets out of his job is Tom's been on this property. Isn't that true?
I've been on it several times, although my colleague Charlie Burgess, who's our Northern New York stewardship manager, he's been on it even more than I have, and so he knows it even better. But yeah, it's great. I've been up those ski slopes. I've traversed a lot of the logging roads. There's a nice section of Fir Brook that is contained in the property, and Fir Brook is a tributary to the Willowweemock Creek. So there are some really nice areas. There's a nice beaver pond on the property. Besides the top of the ski slopes, there are some other nice overlooks. So there's a lot going on, and yeah, I think it'll be a nice addition to the forest preserve.
So all of our listeners for maybe the last 15, 20 minutes or longer have been asking themselves this question: when do we get to go hike the property?
Yeah, I know.
When is the grand opening? When's the ribbon cutting? And when do we get to go out there with our Cliff Bars and bug spray or snowshoes and cross country skis and check the place out?
We've been getting asked that a lot recently, and we've just owned the property for about 3 months, so we're still getting a handle on it, trying to get a better sense of the terrain. And so we are working on our own sort of management plan for the property. We are looking at possibly doing some trail planning, that kind of thing, and figuring if we can open the property to the public during our ownership, which we're thinking will be somewhere between maybe 2, 3, 4 years. But once it is transferred to the state as an addition to the forest preserve, it will be open to the public, and there will be a process of public comment and allowing the public to provide feedback to New York State in terms of the uses that the recreational uses that folks would like to see happen here. I mean, I imagine that a lot of the uses that are permitted on the adjacent Willowweemock Wild Forest, like hiking, like hunting and fishing, and cross-country skiing, a lot of those will probably be permitted on this property. I wish I could give you like a little bit more firmer time frame, but yeah, as for us, we're still trying to just get a handle on it, just understand the lay of the land, and then but eventually it will be open once it's transferred to DEC.
Why the 2 to 4 year delay between the time you guys acquire title to the transfer to the DEC? Is there just a lot of DEC red tape, or is it something else?
Well, I mean, there is. We really value our partnership with DEC, and specifically our regional partners. They work out of the New Paltz office there, and they do a lot with kind of the staff capacity that they have. I know that they've been working with less staff, and they're since like the early 2000s, late 90s. Their staff has been whittled down, but at the same time, I think they've got twice as more land to manage. So, and there's more projects that keep coming. So I think it's just more of, there's only so much capacity. And, projects are moving along, but it's just, it takes some time. So yeah, 3 years has kind of been the time frame that we expect they'll be able to take us out, during that time. But yeah, we anticipate that it will be open, hopefully to the public within those 3 years or so.
So does the DEC pay you back your 6.2 million, or is it going to be a different price?
Well, that is the risk that we take on when we do get our own appraisals. We're hoping that we get a good indication of fair market value, and we base our offers on, or we take those appraisals into consideration when we make our offers and then go into contract. There's no, it's not set in stone what price we will get from DEC. They base their purchase price to us on appraisals that they themselves commission. So we are taking on some risk when we purchase a property and then hold on to it and then later sell. So that's why we try to negotiate the best price we can for Open Space Institute, because we realize we are taking on that kind of market risk when we do this work. There's no indication we're going to get our money back. So.
Gotcha. So one last question before I send it back to Stosh. Are there any killer waterfalls on the property that you can tell us about?
Killer waterfalls. I have not. Well, I mean, yeah, I have mentioned that. The water quality aspect of this property does kind of rise to the top. So I haven't come across waterfalls, but there are a lot of springs on the property. And there's this one spring in particular that's close to Willowee Road that I think folks for a long time in the community have used to get kind of fresh, clean water. A lot of folks come with their containers, their water containers and jugs and all that, and fill up right there. And Charlie and I, my colleague who helps to steward this property, we were out on the property a couple weeks ago, and we saw the spring right there there's a pipe actually that someone has kind of put in to make it easier for folks to fill up their water. But we followed the stream up just a little bit, and it's basically gurgling right out of the ground right next to this rock. So there's a lot of water on this property, a lot of clean water. These streams are the headwaters to Fir Brook and to the Willowee Creek, and a lot of nice clean water that's coming out of there.
I mean, my question, Tad loves waterfalls and water and stuff like that, but views, besides, you have the old ski resort there. Do you have any other views that you know of that is going to just be like, holy crap, this is awesome? Or you plan on making views?
We're not planning on doing any tree cutting or that kind of thing.
Outrageous.
According to my colleague Charlie, he's been more. He's hiked more of the property, and so I think there is a kind of a nice view in the northeastern section of the property where you kind of look west and you can basically see the whole property in front of you, including Slauson Mountain, which is in the western part of the property. So yeah, I think it's a varied landscape there. Lots of water, streams. There's a beaver pond. There's a section of the Fir Brook, and then there's that whole ridge line. So a lot of interesting features that are going on.
Looks like the Delaware Aqueduct flows right into this, right underneath this property, right?
It does, yeah. It goes right underneath, yeah. That's
pretty cool. I wonder. Yeah. That's going to be an interesting place for the DEC to tape off or not tape off or whatever you can do. That's like right in. I wouldn't say right in the middle, but it's on towards the goes from the west to the eastern part. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's a neat feature too. Yeah.
So did they have any history with the ski slopes? I'm curious about the ski slopes. Was it officially open for them to do? Because it looks like they did a really good job cutting that stuff. That was a hell of a. How many runs Ted? How many runs do you think were on that thing?
Oh, I don't have the map up in front of me right now.
1, 2, looks like maybe 7, 8 runs on that. That's pretty impressive.
I know, and it's my understanding that those were cut back in the late '60s, and yeah, they haven't overgrown. So it's an interesting feature. I mean, it does allow for those kind of nice views at the top. So yeah, I don't I think there was some use by the family over the years, but I don't really know too much more about the history of kind of any kind of ski use. Just that, yeah, their proposal kind of stalled out when they kind of learned that Neversink was a dry town. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Interesting.
When they went to go to buy a beer after they were done skiing for the day, they're like, huh? What?
yeah.
Interesting. That is definitely interesting. Like that. It's just funny how that all halts. One little tiny thing can halt somebody developing one huge land and stuff like that. So, hey, not bad, not bad. So, like, is there any other like aspects of Blue Hill you want to chat about besides, I mean, you've kind of mentioned everything in the Catskills area, great water, slopes, stuff like that. Like, any like more popping things you have for about Blue Hill that you want to share?
Let's see. I mean, when we talk about the fact that Blue Hill is mostly an unfragmented forest, you're talking about the trees that can capture carbon and like sequester carbon. And my colleague, another one of my colleagues, Abigail Weinberg, who directs our science team here, she'll often say that trees are the best climate technology we have. And so she's mentioned to me that the forests on the property store about 322,000 metric tons of carbon, which is the equivalent of the energy required for 164,000 homes throughout 1 year. So by protecting large forested properties like that, it's not just good for habitat, not just good for water quality or recreation. It's also helping to meet our climate goals in terms of helping to sequester that carbon, capture that carbon, and then just the fact that this is a 3,100 acre property. It's a large property, and so we're helping to meet the state goals of the 30 by 30 legislation that is looking to protect about 30% of the state's land and waters by 2030. And so it's looking like we've got about 22% of that goal, or we've got about 22% of lands and waters protected as of today. But in order to reach that goal, it's going to take another 2.8 million acres. So we're still got a ways to go. And to put that into perspective, during the 12 years of Governor Pataki's administration, there were about 1 million acres protected during those 12 years. So we kind of need to ramp up our efforts if we're going to try to meet that 30 by 30 goal.
Damn, that's a lot. Jeez. So now with what you guys do, OSI, like, are there any other places that like acquisitions you guys have done that people like are familiar with?
Sure. I mean, so in the Catskills, we've protected over 20,000 acres. We've done a lot of this work, actually kind of close to Blue Hill property in the Beaverkill Valley. But then we've done a lot of work around the Ashokan Reservoir, protecting forest land around there. But when you zoom out, we've done a lot of work in the Hudson Valley. We've protected 20,000 acres along the Shawangunk Ridge at Minnewaska State Park. We helped to create Sterling Forest and Scunnamunk Mountain State Park in Orange County. We've doubled the size of Fawnstalk State Park in Putnam County. Yeah, I mean, our reach has gone all the way up to the Capital Region and to the Adirondacks. And so, I think all in all, we've helped to protect over 150,000 acres in New York State. And there's a project. We actually have signed the closing papers today to sell a 900 acre or just over 900 acre property that's along the eastern slope of Ashokan High Point in the town of Olive in Ulster County. So that's an exciting project. It'll be added to the Sundown Wild Forest of the Catskill Forest Preserve, and it should have great water quality and recreational benefits. And then another project that's just worth mentioning on that we're working on right now is my colleague Matt Decker, who works in our land program. He's been working on this 2,000 acre assemblage in the town of Warsing in Ulster County, and that's going to kind of help to kind of bridge the gap between the Catskills and the Shawangunk Ridge, and that'll eventually become a new state forest in Warsing. So, yeah, a couple more recent things that we're just kind of still doing in the Catskill Shawangunk area that are exciting.
So, Stosh, we need to back up to this eastern slope of Ashokan High Point.
Oh, yeah, that
900 acres.
I think I know where that.
Yeah, is there a common name for that area? Wagon Wheel? Does that come to
mind? Wagon Wheel Gap is part of the property.
Yeah. So when is that going to be conveyed?
It's probably within the next month or two. Yeah, to New York State DEC.
Impressive.
And what does the DEC plan to do with the Wagon Wheel Gap area?
I mean, that is kind of a sensitive area in terms of habitat and wildlife. So I think there will likely be, there will be access for hiking, public recreation, but I think they want to be able to direct public in certain areas because there are some sensitive habitat areas. But I mean, the property does offer some really nice views of the Shawangunks to the south. There's views to the north of the Ashokan Reservoir and the peaks of the Catskills. And it will offer kind of a sort of like an access point to Ashokan High Point from the east, which is exciting.
Yeah. Have you ever hiked there, Tom?
I mean, I've done some hiking on that property, and so it's a sweet property. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. It's a very, very good, very big geological feature in the Catskills. One of the biggest, actually, besides Cartersville Falls, I would say. So that's pretty cool. Tad, go ahead and go out with the next question about Forestburg. So I don't know where is that again?
Yeah. So, Tom, are you familiar with the Lost Lake project in Forestburg?
I think so. Yeah.
2,600 homes.
I mentioned my colleague Matt, who is kind of focused a little bit more so than I in that area. But yeah,
did the OSI ever have the opportunity to come in and buy that land?
I'm actually not sure. Yeah, I don't know the specifics on that. I have heard of it, but. Yeah, unfortunately, we can't be everywhere all at once. But I wish I had more information on that, but I don't.
Yeah. So for our listeners, the Lost Lake project in the town of Forestburg, which is south of Monticello, is a 2,600 housing unit development project that was approved for seasonal second homes, and then it was dormant for a number of years. I think more than 10 years. Nothing really happened there. Just a couple roads were cut in. Nothing was done. And then a few years ago, a developer bought the project and is trying to convert it into year-round home sites. And as I understand it, the environmental studies weren't based upon year-round use. So it's created quite a stir in the local community, and I understand there are a number of lawsuits pending. So it's a big project.
Sounds complicated.
Yeah, well, we're glad that OSI stepped in and took control of Blue Hill so it wouldn't turn into a Lost Lake situation.
Yeah, definitely. What else, Ted? So are there any other projects? You want to go on with that one, Ted?
Any other projects on the horizon in the Catskills? Other acquisitions that are going to be coming down? You guys are going to buy up some land that we're going to get to enjoy in a few years?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking to remain active. I mentioned the 900 acres adjacent to Sundown Wild Forest. next to Ashokan High Point. There's that 2,000 acre assemblage in Warwarsing. Yeah, I mean there are other opportunities that we're looking into, but yeah, so nothing ready just yet. But we're always looking to continue our work in the Catskills and specifically the Catskill Park.
So, Tom, I know a few of our listeners are rolling up their sleeves and leaning into their headphones or whatever they're listening on, and they want Stosh and I to ask you the following very, very serious question. Is OSI in negotiations with the Gould family to buy Double Top and Graham Mountain?
Oh, yes.
Is OSI going to buy those mountains back from the Gould family and put them in the public domain? This is where you can launch your candidacy for president, or at least governor of the state. Tell us, Tom.
Yeah, no, I wish I could say that we had plans to, but yeah, there's nothing on the horizon right now. Yeah, so we've had some conversations over the years with the family, but yeah, there's unfortunately nothing to report. So
they don't want to sell, or are their prices too high?
I think they're just in the process of figuring out their long-term plan for the property, and yeah, it's been within the family for a long time, and so they're just figuring out exactly what their plan is, and so if we ever kind of get a call that there is some interest and they would like to work with us, we would definitely welcome that.
Nice. All right. Well, hopefully we'll have you back on the show to talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. Now, should we talk? Yeah, I gotta ask. So with the stuff that's going on with the current administration, have you guys had like cutbacks and stuff? Are you guys not I don't know how to say it. Are you guys looking like, oh man, stuff is going to be tight, so we can't do more? What's going on with that stuff? You don't need to go full depth and go crazy, but are you guys worried, sweating about this crap?
Luckily we haven't over the years been too reliant on federal funding. There is a project that we did purchase back in the fall in eastern Dutchess County that we are intending to convey to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and that'll be a new addition to the Great Thicket National Wildlife Refuge. And that's an interesting refuge. It doesn't have one singular location. There are focus areas mostly in New England, and then there's a focus area in eastern Dutchess County. So that 200 acres will be added to that section of the refuge. And so far, it seems like funding for that refuge remains in place. And the staff that I've been working with for the past couple of years, I'm still in touch with them, and things are moving along. So yeah. And being in New York, we do have the benefit of there's strong state funding for land conservation. As part of the just recently passed state budget, it included $425 million for the Environmental Protection Fund, which is the highest level that the EPF has been funded at. So not all of that goes to land conservation, but there's a good chunk of funding that will go to land conservation. And then there's a few years back, New York State voters approved the Environmental Bond Act. So I think we're not as reliant on federal funds as maybe some other areas of the country. And so we are able to be a little bit more reliant on our state partners and some of our private partners in order to kind of move projects along.
That's good.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that. So that's good. That's a good thing to hear. We can cut it off of that. So, thank you, Tom, for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. We got one last question. So now that you've gone to Blue Hill all these times and stuff like that, post-hike brews and bites. Now when you go out to Blue Hill, when you're exploring the Catskills, the Gunk, stuff like that, where do you go after you have done your hiking, your stuff like that to get something to eat or drink. Hopefully nowhere in Neversink.
Well, I was in Livingston Manor 2 weeks ago, and my colleague Charlie Burgess and we wanted to present the project so folks in the community could just get a better sense of it, and so yeah, we presented at the Livingston Manor Library, and then afterward we were invited to a local bar, and right there in Livingston Manor, and I think it was the Colony Sunshine. So I want to a shout out to them for kind of hosting us, and the after library crowd. We moved from the library and had a good time at the Colony Sunshine afterward in Livingston Manor. So that was fun.
Rowdy bunch of individuals, probably, right? Okay. I was kind of hoping you were talking about Schneider's down there in Ashokan. So,
Right.
You guys go there. That would have been fun.
Oh yeah.
You got to take one of your clients or some of the people you work with that've never been into the Catskills. That's their first place that they have to visit is Schneider's Tavern.
So, Stosh, I'm pulling up the Sunshine Colony in Livingston Manor. It just looks too high end for you and I to go into.
Okay.
Tom hangs with some pretty elite company. If he hangs out at the colony or the Sunshine Colony, they're like, esoteric wines, a lot of throw pillows in these photos. Yeah, looks.
Well, luckily it's only like a 20-minute drive from the Blue Hill property. So
yeah,
was it good food?
Yeah. Well, I didn't have much. I had to drive back home, and it was about a 2-hour drive. So I just had I think a sparkling water, and then that was about it. But yeah, it seemed like everyone else was enjoying some really good drinks. So
excellent.
Good. Cool. Well, Tom, thank you once again for joining us tonight. Really hope you had a good time. Thank you for once again on your hard work for getting this land for the people of New York State and for hikers and such to enjoy in the future. So can't wait for we should have like a ribbon cutting live show on the top of that one ski slope.
Yeah, let's do it when it all comes together. That'd be great.
We'll make everybody go up there and stuff during black fly season, get everything going, worst miserable time of life, and then they'll never want to come back, and it'll be just us, just be you and me, Ted.
Well, bring your bug spray, but don't bring your beer.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Good point.
Is Neversink still a dry town?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. And that's good. Don't want to. But excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, Tom. Have a good night. Let's get together in the future. Keep us updated on everything that's going on, please. And thank you for your hard work. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Ted and Stash.
Yeah. Anytime. Have a good night. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Yep. Bye.
Yep. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking news, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this. You gotta just keep on living in the Catskills, man. Livin.
Wicked.